Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world, I hope that you are in good health. I hope that you are safe. And most importantly, I hope that all is pleasant for you and your loved ones. Once again, my friends, welcome to the Common Sense channel. On this channel, we get to talk about those things that people know, that people have thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. These, my friends, are the things we talk about here on the Common Sense channel. So, once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. Today, talk will be centered on dictatorship. About, think, 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I did a video on democracy. But for this video, I'm going to be doing something where I will tie democracy and dictatorship and show you that both of them are the same. And in my own personal view, again, in my own personal view, democracy does not exist. What exists is dictatorship. And I will show you why I say so. In a democracy, if it exists, the bedrock for dictatorship is often lingering. All the elements of dictatorship can be found in a democracy. So, because of that, I feel and know that democracy doesn't exist. Now, how does dictatorship exist in a functioning democracy? Dictatorship exists in a functioning democracy in the form of policies. It exists in the form of platform. So, for instance, if we're using the United States of America as a case study, you would know that every 2 years or 4 years, when we're having local or national election for the Senate, for the House, or maybe presidential election, each of those candidates that are running or will be running often establish something called platforms. And each of these platforms has policies. And these policies are what these candidates runs on. So policies can be a law. It can be a guide on which the candidates are running on. It is in these policies or platforms that the candidates is able to tell his constituents or the nation or the country or the counties or the localities or the states where they resides, or if they're going to be running on a congressional ticket. It is in these policies and platforms that they tell the nation what their intentions are and what they will be running on. You understand? So many a times people that don't understand these things, they in their mind they are thinking it's a democracy because someone is pitching to them their goals, their intention, their policies, and what they're going to be doing if elected. But they don't know that behind the scenes, those people that wrote those policies, they are already dictating to you what they're going to be doing, how they're going to be doing it, and all you're going to do is follow whatever is it that they have set forth in these platforms or whatever the policies are going to be. You understand? So policies in a democracy is the bedrock for dictatorship. Now, during an election in a functioning democracy, there will always be individuals that do not agree with everything that are listed on those platforms or in those policies that either candidates or parties are running on. And those individuals are the ones on the fringe of society. They are not they are not deviants or anything like that. It's just that they understand the intricacy, the inner making of a dictatorship. They understand that those policies or those platforms that are being propagated or those platforms that are being discussed can lead to something that will be detrimental to them. So they often stand up against that and speak out. You understand? So, for instance, in this country, we have two-party system. In other countries, they have more. But in America, it's two-party system. Although sometimes they like to say the Green Party and the other ones, but those are not as relevant as the Democrat and the Republican. So these individuals often run on these platforms and these policies. They'll tell you what they're going to do. They'll tell you, we're going to do this as far as education is concerned. We're going to do this as far as healthcare is concerned. We're going to do this as far as the economy is concerned. We're going to do this as far as a whole host of things. They'll list them. Now, those people that understand what I'm discussing here, they know that those policies that are being presented on those platforms are not what they're the policy maker that are behind the same are intending is the opposite. So they'll get up and speak up against it. Now, those people that are speaking up, those same very policies that they're speaking up against or talking about or not in favor of, those same policies in a functioning democracy can also be used against them because they're seeing it differently. You understand? But the majority of the people, because they don't understand that in a functioning democracy, the bedrock of dictatorship is right in the policies. That's where it's at. So the democracy doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is dictatorship. But democracy is like the ones that's presented, the idea is presented to the masses. So they only see it as, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for these policies. But if you think about it, they are not the architect of that policy or those policies. They are only reacting to them. You understand? So the policymakers are the ones selling the policies. So all those people that understand these policies, that have read through them and know how detrimental they will be for them, those are the ones that stand up against them, those policies. You understand? Not everyone in a society, any society, is not just in this country, that are going to agree 100% on any policies either the Democrat or Republican are producing. And those people are the ones those policies are often used against. You understand? So that's why in any society, such as this one in the United States, can never practice it. I don't like to say true democracy, but for the sake of my video, I would say that, democracy, because in order to practice democracy, you must always have some elements of a dictatorship in there. And when people think of dictatorship, they're just thinking about that big guy sitting in there, big bad guy, me, and just arresting everyone, locking them up, throwing them in jail. No one can bail them out, or no one can no one can release them. They're in prison for perpetual, who knows, whatever time. they're in there. That's not what I'm discussing here, because there's no way you can say dictatorship is a form of government. No, it's not. It's just all policies. The only difference is the whoever is implementing those policies, they're just enforcing them. And they're enforcing these policies based on any means necessary. You understand? So that's what it is. Dictatorship is nothing but policies. And these policies, the bedrock of these policies are in a functioning democracy. You understand? So you can talk of democracy all you want. It's a system that emphasizes on equality for all under the law. It's a system that treats all citizens equal. It's a system that allows people to voice their opinions. It's a system that allows people to assemble. It's a system that grants freedom of the press. These are all good things. But in my view, and for the sake of this video, right, these are all cliches. In reality, they don't work. They're not applicable. And the reason why they're not applicable, because when in a society you're dealing with human beings, and human beings will do what they want. And how do you enforce that behavior? How do you deal with that behavior? In order to deal with these behaviors, you have to have policies. When someone can tell you what they would do with the air that you're breathing, or when someone can tell you who you can marry to and who you can fall in love with, when someone can set up all these policies, as far as religion is concerned, as far as education is concerned, as far as your movement in society is concerned, if someone can write these in policies and hide them in those policies, there's no way you're going to see them if you don't understand that within a democracy where there's rules of laws, and these laws govern the movement of things, people, how society is run. If someone knows how to hide them in those policies, the policies maker, there's no way you're going to know. And then once you already voted, there's no way you can turn it around. The only thing you can do is wait for another 4 years. And then the majority of the people that voted, if they're not well informed, and if they were not informed about those policies, now they're going to be victim of that. That's why in places like Africa, democracy, so-called democracies, produce more dictatorship than the actual democracy itself, which I think doesn't exist. So you'll find more dictatorship in Africa because the policies that those leaders are producing, it's not in the best interest of the people anyway. And then when the people rise up, they just crush them, because the policy has to take shape. You understand? So dictatorship in Africa is all about policies. It's the same thing here too. It's the same thing here. Like whether you like it or not, he's already there. And all you can do is either you drown or you try to swim. So it's your choice. So what I'm trying to say is, within the framework of a functioning democracy lies all of the elements of a dictatorship. Like some people, when they think of dictatorship, they're thinking of the other way. But what I'm saying is, whenever you think of something as good, as is the case of democracy, as is presented to you, you should always look at the opposite of that. And that's what happened to people who understand these platforms, who understand these policies of any of the political parties that are running in this country or anywhere else in the world. So it takes a well-informed voter. That's why it's always good. as a citizen, as a voter of a country, you must inform yourself before you go out there to vote, because other than that, you're going to be voting for policies that's not going to work in your interest, or that's not going to work for you because you did not inform yourself and you didn't get the right education that you needed to decipher, to think about that policy or the policies that are presented to you, you know. But within the framework of a democracy, so-called democracy, lies the fundamentals of a dictatorship, or the elements of a dictatorship. And all of that, my friends, is in policies. You know, like in this country, you're allowed to say what you want to say, but guess what? There are limitations. Yeah. Now you can't just let no one tell you America is has a, I know it's in the Bill of Rights, but uh that's another discussion for another video. You know, you can talk about that, but yeah, there's no such thing as absolute freedom of speech. Yeah.